Welcome to Encroachment Sports Talk. I'll be flying solo today because my partner Chris has other engagements. March Madness. So I thought I would use this opportunity to announce my candidacy for national office. I'm running on a platform with only two objectives. Two dates I'd like to see as national holidays. Sports fans can relate to this. The first being Super Bowl Monday. Nobody wants to work after a Super Bowl party on Super Bowl Sunday. The NFL had it right 2 years ago when they scheduled the Super Bowl the day before President's Day. So if the NFL would just always do that, I wouldn't have to enact that first law. The second 2 days, which should be national holidays, is the first round of March Madness, the Thursday and Friday. I actually saw a study done in 2019. This was before inflation kicked in. Big time rampant inflation, that said $13.3 billion of lost productivity in the US was a result of the NCAA tournament. People watching games, filling out brackets, discussing games. So nobody should have to work Thursday and Friday. Anyway, on a serious note, moving on, I want to talk about March Madness. And the first thing I want to do is give props. I have no endorsements by YouTube TV or anything like that, but I want to give props to the experience I had watching the games on YouTube TV. They've got this new feature called Multi-View, which allows you to watch all four games. You know, there's generally four games going on at once. And it allows you to watch all four games at once on the same screen. So with today's 60-inch screen, you got four little 30-inch screens, which is plenty big. For those of you as old as me, 30 used to be huge. And you can choose which game you want the volume for, and then you can drill in and see full screen on any one of those games. So props to YouTube TV for making a sports fan experience first rate. Now let's talk a little bit about the games. This is the 30th year anniversary of one of the biggest choke jobs in college basketball, and that was the Chris Webber phantom timeout. Chris Webber in the national title game, for those of you who aren't familiar with what happened. The national title game, down 2 with about 20 seconds, maybe less to go. Michigan didn't have any timeouts, but Chris Webber thought they did and called a timeout when he got stuck. And that resulted in 2 technical foul shots and the ball to North Carolina, who was your national champion. So in honor of that, I want to reference yesterday's Drake versus Miami game. Talk about a classic choke job. So Drake was up 8 points with less than 5 minutes to go with the ball. And they had been playing tough. It wasn't like they went on this little run to push it to 8. They were ahead most of the game. And kiss of death, they started milking the clock. They started playing not to lose. It's always a kiss of death. So they waited, they would milk the clock on their offensive possessions, start their offensive possessions with 10 or 8 seconds to go, and they weren't getting good shots. I do have to give some credit to Miami coach Larinaga, who started pressing. And also Miami wasn't hitting many shots, so they started taking the ball to the paint, taking the ball in the key and getting fouled. They scored a lot from the foul line. But Drake couldn't break the press, turned it over twice. If you're going to win in the NCAA tournament, you need to be able to handle pressure, handle the press, and they couldn't. But most of all, I think that what irks me the most, and anybody watching the show is obviously a diehard sports fan. You've had kids. If you have kids, you've probably coached their team at some level. Little league team, soccer team. And as a coach of your child, you have to make that decision. How am I going to treat my kid? Am I going to be harder on my kid just to prove that I'm not biased in their favor? Or am I going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I know their true capabilities? You know, if they are struggling a little bit, let them play it out because I know what they can do. Well, Coach Darren DeVries chose the latter with his son, Tucker DeVries, who's one of the better players, probably the best player on the Drake team. But he was a dismal 1 for 13 from the field, including 1 for 11 from 3. Yet down the stretch, who was taking the key shots? Yeah, they would milk the clock, run the ball, get it over to Tucker DeVries, who would throw up a bad three-pointer. All this happening, well, they have a player, Sardar Calhoun. He was 4 for 5 from three. And his threes, there was no question about whether they were going in. They were money, nothing but net, including one when he was handed a grenade with like 1 second to go, because again, they milked the clock and started getting into their set way too late. Tossed it out to Calhoun. He didn't have time to even get the shot off in time, but he did get it off after the buzzer, buried that one. Anyway, he didn't get more shots. So this is college basketball. You can't be milking the clock and relying on one guy, ISO ball. You don't have Steph Curry on your team or a Jason Tatum or a James Harden with the ability to make something happen one-on-one. So if you do the math, 5 minutes to go and you're up 8, that's only 3 possessions. You can't afford to get empty possessions. And Drake, if you're going to write the book, if you're going to look up in the dictionary, playing not to lose and the dangers of that, this is like this would pop up first. So anyway, tough loss. Another tough loss was Virginia and how they lost. I don't think Kihei Clark, the guard for Virginia, is going to be passing any math exams in the near future. What happened, for those of you not familiar with that, what happened there was Furman made 2 free throws to cut Virginia's lead to 2 points with 12 seconds to go. So Virginia, with 1 timeout in their pocket, had an inbounded the ball under their basket to Kihei Clark. He got trapped a little bit in the corner, but not super pressure. Plenty of time to call it timeout. But he had this inspiration. I have time to just heave it down the court. By the time they get it, they won't be able to score. Well, his math was off by a good 4 seconds because Furman intercepted the ball, came down, buried a 3, and had 2.5 seconds to spare. So if you count the second and a half, the ball's in the air, he was off by a good 4 seconds. Anyway, tough way to lose. So that was just something I don't have a dog in the hunt. My New Mexico Lobos just laid an egg this year. So it's just fun to watch these stories. Win or lose, goat or hero, it's always fun to watch. Another game where they escaped by the skin of their teeth was Xavier. Xavier had a narrow lead over Kennesaw State. It was 1 or 2 points. It's escaping my memory right now. Kennesaw State drove the lane, blocked, but got the rebound for an instant. And Xavier raked his hand over the guy's arm, which caused the ball to pop loose. They didn't call the foul because the refs are going to swallow their whistle at that point in time. But had they called the foul, it might have been a different outcome. So they escaped there. One other great finish was Florida Atlantic with just a clutch layup. Down 1, drove to the hoop, and great play call, great finish. But what struck me about that game, there's a player on Memphis, DeAndre Williams, who is 26 years old. That's crazy. Jason Tatum is 25, and he's been in the NBA for 6 years. So Williams, if he declares for the NBA draft, I don't know when he's going to turn 27, but beware of drafting that guy. He's not going to finish out his rookie deal before he announces his retirement. So anyway, just interesting, in this day and age, somebody 26 years old, a man among boys. Anyway, I'm going to let you go. Tons of games going on right now. There's a few that are of particular interest to me in the round of 32. One being Marquette versus Michigan State. So Michigan State with Tom Izzo, year after year, no matter who's on his squad, they're a tough out, and they make deep runs. So in Marquette, they're coached by Shaka Smart, and Shaka Smart took the VCU Rams, very unheralded program, in 2011 to the Final Four. So he's a great coach, and they're the Big East champs, winners of, I believe, 10 straight. So that's a really intriguing game. 2 other matchups that I'll be watching, 4 or 5 matchups, Duke versus Tennessee. Duke trying to write a new chapter after Krzyzewski has stepped down. Will the new coach, John Shayer, be able to coach 30, 40 years and win however many games Krzyzewski had. Doubtful, but new era. Let's see how that goes. Also, UConn versus St. Mary's, two tough teams, another 4 or 5 matchup that's fun and worth watching. But anyway, that's it for this week. We will be with you soon and enjoy your March Madness.